And what's happening, guys? Welcome along to 420 News, brought to you by me, Martin, from Martin's World. Apologies there about the delay getting started up. Being just seen a new option there on the Streamlabs, and it offered me the opportunity to live stream to Instagram, which I think I might have. Oh wait, yeah, wait no, sorry. Now we're live over on Instagram. Boom. To be fair, looking at the video there now over on Instagram, it doesn't really look like it's worth the effort. I think I have to actually customize the output ratio. I think like you can only just see the narrow. You can't see this up here or up there. Or you can't see the hotbox. The hotbox, to be fair, to me is probably the most important part of this show because it's where you, the listeners, get to have your say and chat away with each other and with myself. So leave that one with me. I'll figure that out for future broadcasts, how to integrate the new live streaming option there to Instagram. So again, my apologies. Boom, here we go. Let's get started. So no 420 News would be started really without getting engaged in a little bit of civil disobedience on here. Engaging in a bit of medicating. Yes. Who else out there is medicating illegally, unfortunately, like myself? Hopefully soon, maybe I'll get word back from Olio in the next week or two. Maybe they might be able to sort that out for me and make it illegal. But yeah, until then, this is civil disobedience right here on 420 News. And this is not intended to promote the consumption of cannabis. This is intended to highlight the flaws of cannabis prohibition. So just put that one in your pipe and smoke it. Instagram. Go on, John. John says Instagrams. Sounds interesting. It'd be a good delivery service, wouldn't it? Instagrams. Oh, forgive me, should have hit that mute button. Linda says she's so medicated right now. Yes, love it. Oh, that was tasty. That was some Gorilla Skittles. Better clear out the bowl and have it ready for a little bit of civil disobedience in a couple of minutes, Richie. So keep the comments coming in there, guys. We'll get a couple of more of the comments read out there from the hotbox before we get stuck into some of the headlines that I've lined up there for you today. We can start off with some positive news. So there's a little sneak as to what's coming. Starting off with some positive news. Again, no surprise, it's coming from across the pond, the positive news. Unfortunately, I don't have anything positive to report on from Ireland just yet. Fingers crossed, in the coming weeks we will have some very positive news to report on because of Gino Kenny's bill that gets debated and voted on, hopefully on the 31st of January this month. So not long at all, really, to wait for that. What do we have? Another 3 weeks? 21 days? 3 weeks? Where does that bring us to? 27. So just over 3 weeks there, guys. Just over 3 weeks now until we get to see. I suppose the mask slipping within the government. A lot will be revealed during this debate on Gino Kenny's bill to decriminalise up to 7 grams of cannabis. To be fair, it's a bit headache amount of cannabis to be decriminalising, but it's certainly a much needed step in the right direction. It's all we've got right now, but to be fair, it should be going much further, but unfortunately, because of I don't know, would you say the pessimism that is there in regards to the support of a bill like this by the government, it really, really, really had to be watered down by those designing it at the time. So 7 grams of cannabis, that seems to be the best that we've got here in Ireland at the moment, and that's going to be the 31st of January. I'll be above there myself in Dublin on that day. I'll be doing a bit of a live up there before, during and after, hopefully. And hopefully get to meet some of yourselves above there, as well as there is an open call there for people if they want to attend. Get in touch with the guys at People Before Profit, or fire myself a message there. Join the Telegram hotbox, link in the description there below the show. So join over there, drop me a message, and we'll get you included in the group that's going to be in the viewing gallery within the Oireachtas, Leinster House. David says, came to tune in, me phone going dead. Best of luck, Martin. Hope Olio sort you. Be back on to listen soon. Forgot my power bank. Nice one, Dave. Nice one, man. Yeah, chances. Dave's not here, man. Yeah, his phone's gone dead. Hey, what's happening, Darren? Says, hi, how are you? I'm mighty high, how are you? The roving reporter, what is happening, my buddy? I finally figured out who that was, too. I had no idea that was yourself behind that account there. Says, I smoked all my 420 blunt already. Lucky I have another pre-roll. Nice, nice. SG2 Parker, welcome guys. Nicely bakes us Parker today. Happy days. Lynn Arnold says, random question, RSO, yes or no? I got a cancer diagnosis 2 days before Christmas. Linda, I'm so sorry to hear of that diagnosis, but yes, RSO, massive, yes. Again, if you have, I'd imagine you've already seen the documentary Run From the Cure, featuring Rick Simpson, the guy behind the name RSO, Rick Simpson Oil. But I'd imagine you've seen that already. Big, massive, yes. Work up to a dose in which, where you can tolerate it, where it's not absolutely obliterating you. I'd imagine you've probably already got a bit of a high tolerance there. But yeah, definitely I would be throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at any cancer diagnosis, Big ones to be making, like lifestyle changes. Make sure you're getting a good night's sleep. Sure you're not too stressed, I'm sure you know all of this stuff as well. Like cannabis alone, it's no cure to a bad lifestyle and all of that, So it's in combination with all of those things, as kind of previously mentioned. Cleaning up the diet is probably a big one as well, guys. The amount of crap that's actually in our diet at the moment, and they're allowed, like, and oh my god, having 4 kids, obviously, I'm very sensitive to the stuff like that, and I see stuff there my kids have, and it just kills me. Like, my mum and dad would be getting them kind of gifts and what have you, like, sorry, treats. But to be fair, like, they're a lot of them are anything but fucking treats. Anything but treats, and we're allowed to just give them to our kids. But meanwhile, me and you, we still can't have cannabis, but we can give all these fucking E numbers, and oh god, don't get me started on that conversation, Really, really grinds my gears. But Linda, yes, RSO, get her into you. I believe Rick Simpson's protocol is getting yourself up to 1 milliliter of, or is it 1 gram? I think there's not much difference there between either. But getting yourself up to that full dose, that 1 milliliter or gram per day is what Rick Simpson calls for. He says about 90 days following that protocol, and that should be enough to give your body what it needs to be able to battle those nasty cancer cells. And again, there's a lot of science supporting the use of cannabis. The effectiveness of compounds within cannabis at enticing cells into what's known as apoptosis, where the cell naturally dies, because effectively that's what a cancer cell is. It's a cell that says it's not going into apoptosis, it's continuing to grow. That's what a cancer is, a cell that's not dying, and it just keeps growing and multiplying, becoming a fucking massive tumour. And it's yeah, sorry, Linda. Hopefully that wasn't too fucking graphic, but you know what I mean. If you give your body what it needs to be able to battle this, yeah, definitely cannabis is one of those things that's been shown to be able to get those cells into that necessary state of apoptosis. Fasting is another very interesting one, having an eating window, Linda. Again, sorry now for like spending time on this, but I'm sure you might appreciate it, hopefully. But definitely eating windows. Look into that, like time restricted eating. Look at like trying to start off with an 8-hour eating window, allowing your body then a 16-hour period of fast. And like an 8-hour eating window is still fairly good. If you started eating at 10 o'clock in the morning, that gives you up until 6 o'clock in the evening. 10 to 6. That's an 8-hour eating window. Get all your calories into you in that period. Good quality calories then as well, and allow your body then a period of rest afterwards. Maybe every now and again, maybe you might even kind of go for a 48-hour fast or something like that, if you really feel like you want to give it that extra oomph. Because again, fasting is another thing that kicks into place, cellular apoptosis. So again, anything you can do to get your body into that fucking apoptosis mode, recycling old cells, because that's effectively what your body is doing when it's going into apoptosis. You're recycling these old cells that your body kind of wasn't really recycling all along because you weren't, say, let's for example, allowing yourself that period of rest in terms of food into your body and stuff. But look, sorry, hopefully I didn't spend too much time on that. But to anybody else out there, hopefully listening, hopefully you might find that information a bit useful there as well. Cannabis is not a cure-all, and I'm not on here saying it is, but I'm definitely on here saying that there's mechanisms from the compounds of cannabis that are activated that can certainly be seen as anti-cancer, anti-tumour. So, boom, there you go. Hot box comments keep coming in. I keep getting them in there anyway. John Finnegan saying yes, Linda, definitely yes, and sorry to hear your news. And the Roving Reporter says I did at Linda Arnold and still am here. Yeah, that's right. The Roving Reporter. I don't know, is that an anonymous account? I won't say the other name. But yeah, the Roving Reporter is successfully being able to beat cancer there with the use of cannabis and the compounds within it. Boom. Darren Murphy says you can get a cannabis prescription in the UK if you suffer from asthma. The country is stuck in the dark ages. It certainly is. It definitely is. Oh, nice to see everybody's comments coming in there over on Instagram as well, guys. If you're watching on Instagram and if you want to see the Hotbox and you want to participate, get over to YouTube. We're live over on YouTube as well, and you have a much wider view of the screen over there. Wonder, can you actually go like full screen that? No, it doesn't. It still says in a 6:9, whatever ratio it is. Yeah. Anyhow, get over to YouTube if you want to see the Hotbox, guys, and it's definitely a must if you're going to tune in here to the 420 news. The Hotbox is the place to be. Keep those comments coming in, guys. Linda saying very much appreciated, not a bother at all, Linda. And John Finnegan says 8:16. Are you sure you're not mixing up your veg cycle, Martin? No, definitely not, John. Definitely not. That's an eating window I like to try to follow myself. Although with the sometimes the cannabis can be a bit of a hindrance on that, especially when it comes to the evening time and like you're having a cup of tea and you're just throwing a couple of spoons of honey in there and. It'd be rude then not to have an old chocolate biscuit or two. But certainly health conscious. Hey, welcome, Chilbert. Good afternoon. Beautiful plants, by the way, Chilbert, over there on Instagram. Absolutely beautiful stuff you're doing. Yeah, don't say name, Martin. See, you thought I was going to say it, John, didn't you? Hey, what do I know? Says, greetings, Martin. I am MB Sanchez with a new name. Good luck with the legal issues. Welcome, MB Sanchez. Nice one for letting us know that it's yourself behind the new name. Hopefully all is well with yourself. And yeah, nice one for tuning in. Bobby O'Brien as well. What's happening, Bobby? Heard the first day in a new job went good. Delighted to hear that, Bob. Or Bobby. How's life, says Martin. Life, actually, at the moment, thank be to God, it's pretty good. Long may that continue because I know this time last year I was in a much different fucking situation and had nothing to do with prohibition. As I said, I wish prohibition was my biggest problem back then, but thank God today I can actually say that, yeah, I'm looking at it now, prohibition is probably my biggest problem again. Thank God for that. Sounds weird, but guys, if you know, you know. If you don't, then continue scratching the head because I'm not even going to get into it. Serenable says, hello, Mr. Hotbox. And Chilbert says, thanks, bro, much appreciated. HNY, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. HNY was like, what's that again? Happy New Year, bruv. Yeah. Hey, TG, welcome, Temple Garor. Yes. Oh, TG, I was checking out those extracts you posted over on X. Was it like yesterday? Oh, what I would give, man, if they could just invent fucking smell-o-vision or some form of device, Like, they have 3D printers and shit, like, can they, like, fucking 3D print terpenes or something like that, man, and give us a smell? Hopefully there's some genius out there working on this. and warrant everyone else as well, says TG. SG2 says, I've heard fasting is good for the internals 1, 2, 3, and 5 days. Not trying it, but I'm going to in 2024. Well, there you go. And I'm glad actually, that we've kind of started off on this foot, really kind of going into talking about health consciousness there and stuff like that. And even, for anybody, like, you don't even have to be suffering with cancer to be kind of integrating this kind of stuff into your daily routine, most definitely. But the start of today's 420 news, actually, as I said, it's going to be a positive one, and we're diving right into it. So let's pop it up on screen for you there. Boom. There you go. That's a bit better. Study. Cannabis can make workouts more fun, but it's no performance enhancer. And this is an article that's up there on CU Boulder today. So it's coming out of the University of Colorado, where there was a study done basically looking at the use of cannabis in combination with exercise. So they didn't find any enhancement in terms of like performance enhancement. But what they did find is that cannabis can actually make your workouts more fun and enjoyable, and it can actually be a motivator there for people to get out there and work out. I know, like, many people, like, they love to have a smoke and go walk the dogs or something, or even if they don't have dogs, they just like to have a smoke and go for a walk. Little do they know they're actually exercising. And had they not been going smoking that cannabis, maybe they just would have been sitting on the couch or something. But yeah, cannabis can make workouts more fun, and that includes something as little as walking. So this is an article by Lisa Marshall. And it says a bit of weed before a workout can boost motivation and make exercise more enjoyable, but if performance is the goal, it may be best to skip that joint. and I would probably agree with them as well to some degree. Like, performance, like, yeah, I'm just thinking of the Diaz brothers, like the boys are endurance athletes, and I like to do a bit of running myself as well. Long distance, 10 kilometers, is that long distance? Long enough for me anyway. But I definitely find that if I have a smoke or two, if I dose up there before going for my run, that I can definitely just kind of get into that zone where I can just keep jogging and running and not really be tuned in, I suppose, listening. I would just say, like, I don't know, I just wouldn't be listening to that voice telling me, right, you're tired, the body is sore or something, you're just in the zone. I just find that cannabis helps me achieve that, and then it allows me to just run for a bit longer. But yeah, that's just my experience. But that's the takeaway anyway here, says, of the first study to examine how legal, commercially available cannabis shapes how exercise feel. And the study was of 42 runners, and it was published on the 26th of December in the Journal of Sport Medicine. And it comes almost exactly 10 years after Colorado became the first state to commence legal sales of recreational cannabis, at a time when cannabis users increasingly reported mixing it with workouts. The bottom line is the finding is that cannabis before exercise seems to increase positive mood and enjoyment during exercise, whether you use THC or CBD, but the THC products specifically make exercise feel more effortful. And that's coming from the author of the study, the first author of the study, Laurel Gibson, a research fellow with the Colorado University's Center for Health and Addiction, Neuroscience, Genes and Environment. The findings and previous research by the team seem to defy long-held stereotypes that associate cannabis with a couch lock, and instead raise an intriguing questions. Could the plant play a role in getting people moving? And I can say before even delving into this any further, like, I know it does. As I said, just that previous example, how many people actually will roll one up and just go out for a walk? Go down into the local river or something, and even just get out and sit down at the side of the river rather than actually sitting down in front of the couch. Now, that's not to say that people don't actually engage in that couch lock stuff, but for a lot of people, cannabis actually is a motivator to get out there, whether it be just going for a walk or even going for those long runs or more. It says here that we have an epidemic of sedentary lifestyle in this country, and we need new tools to try to get people to move their bodies in ways that are enjoyable, said the senior author Angela Bryan, a professor of psychology and neuroscience and co-director of Colorado University Change. If cannabis is one of those tools, we need to explore it, keeping in mind both the harms and the benefits. And it says a first-of-its-kind study in one previous survey of cannabis user, Bryan's research group found that a whopping 80% had used before or shortly after exercise, yet very little research has been done at the intersection of the two. And after exercise is actually one that I know myself that a lot of people would engage in much more than actually the before exercise. I'm thinking more for the athletes that I'm more familiar with, which is martial artists, especially the guys at Thai boxing. There's nothing better than actually, like, I like to get a bit, have a dose or two before going for sparring. But if I'm going to do in a class, to be honest, like if I blaze up before a class, I just like, yeah, you just don't have that fucking, I don't know, just you can't give it that extra bit. I don't know. I just find definitely that the THC dose there, it can become a hindrance for like smashing pads. You kind of just want to play around and have a bit more fun, which is why I tend to dose up before going to sparring. Yeah, it makes you loose. And again, it just puts you into a zone where you can just really enjoy it as well. Like, I don't know, any anyone else out there in the hot box, share your experiences with cannabis and exercise. More importantly, if you've experienced cannabis and martial arts, would you be kind of similar to me? Did you enjoy it? Jiu-jitsu? Man, that was one definitely you would dose up before going to jiu-jitsu, because it's certainly the looseness that came with cannabis there. Yeah, if they were doing a study there looking at cannabis and jiu-jitsu, they might actually find that it is a performance enhancer, because yeah, being loose for jiu-jitsu, like not being rigid, that's definitely a plus. But anyhow, we drive on there with this. It goes, for the study, Brian and Gibson recruited 42 Boulder area volunteers who already run while using cannabis. After a baseline session in which the researchers took fitness measurements and survey data, they assigned participants to go to a dispensary and pick up either a designated flower strain that contained mostly CBD or a THC dominant strain. It says there THC and CBD are active ingredients in cannabis, with THC known to be more intoxicating. And CBD, like, it's certainly an active ingredient, like, but is it psychoactive? Like, I really would argue there that CBD is psychoactive. It's certainly active in terms of bioactive, as in it elicits a response, a positive, beneficial response from the body, but it is a psychoactive THC. And as I said, would it hinder you, say, from smashing the pads? I would say not. I think that THC is definitely going to be more effective in that regard. It says then on one follow-up visit, volunteers ran on a treadmill at a moderate pace for 30 minutes, answering questions periodically to assess how motivated they felt, how much they were enjoying themselves, how hard the workout felt, and how quickly time seemed to pass and their pain levels. That's interesting, how quickly time seemed to pass. Because I feel that, like, yeah, you can just kind of zone out a little bit, and time, yeah, it doesn't seem to bother you. You can kind of look at your watch and just be like, fuck, a lot of time just passed. Like, and I didn't realise it. Yeah, definitely. On another visit, they repeated this test after using cannabis. It says federal laws then prohibit the possession and distribution of cannabis on college campuses, so the runners use it at home before being picked up in a mobile laboratory, aka the Canavan. Yes. Oh, yes, I love it. AKA the Canavan, and brought to the lab. So basically, federal laws still prohibit the use of cannabis on college campuses. So they made them use it at home and picked them up in a van, and the van was called Canavan. That's brilliant. The runners also wore a safety belt on the treadmill. Hang on, were they running in the van? What? So they used the cannabis at home and then ran on a treadmill in the van. Yeah, that's gas, man. That's gas. They're in the back of the van running on a treadmill with a safety belt on. Not a performance enhancing drug. Across the board, participants reported greater enjoyment, more intense euphoria, or runner's high when exercising after using cannabis. Surprisingly, this heightened mood was even greater in the CBD group than in the THC group, that's very interesting. Suggesting athletes may be able to get some of the benefits to mood without the impairment that comes with THC. Now, that's something I'm going to have to put to the test, actually. Going to have to dose myself up more regularly with CBD before going to the gym. And see if it interferes with the old ability of smashing pads. Participants in the THC group also reported that the same intensity of running felt significantly harder during the cannabis run than the sober run. This may be because THC increases the heart rate, Brian says. That's very interesting. In a previous study conducted remotely, she and Gibson found that while runners felt more enjoyment under the influence of cannabis, they ran 31 seconds per mile slower. Yeah, that's I suppose it's significant. Like, there's a difference between running a 4 minute mile and a 4 minute and 31 second mile. But it's like, yeah, it's not a whole lot. Like, to be fair, the average mile being ran is probably for a person is about 6 minutes, let's say, give or take, and 30 seconds and 6 minutes. Like, yeah, says it's pretty clear from our research that cannabis is not a performance enhancing drug. Notably, numerous elite athletes, including US sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson, have been prohibited from competing in recent years after testing positive for cannabis. An NCAA committee recently recommended that it be removed from the list of banned substances. And then it goes on to talk about a different kind of runner's high. Why does cannabis make exercise feel better? While natural painkilling endorphins have long been credited with the famous runner's high, new research suggests that that this is a myth. Instead, naturally produced brain chemicals known as endogenous cannabinoids are likely at play, kicking in after an extended period of exercise to produce euphoria and alertness. So those compounds, known as anandamide, that's one of the compounds, dubbed the bliss molecule by its discoverer, Raphael Melchlom, who sadly actually passed away, I believe, a year or two ago. That was one of the researchers who discovered the molecule THC, and he also identified that molecule, anandamide, and called it the bliss molecule. At least I do believe it was him who dubbed it that. It says athletes considering using cannabis should be aware that it comes with risks, including dizziness and loss of balance, and it's not for everyone. And I would certainly say that, guys. If you're a first-time cannabis user, don't like go and get a high THC cannabis strain. Like, certainly, I would definitely be starting off with CBD, and a full spectrum CBD as well, something that contains a little bit of THC, you know. And then working your way up from there, go to a 1-to-1 strain, maybe even start playing around with CBG. CBG is a very interesting molecule, actually, because they talk about the natural runner's high here, which is talking about anandamide, the bliss molecule. Well, CBG is actually shown, and it's another cannabinoid, cannabigerol. It's actually been shown to decrease the activity of an enzyme which mops up that actual compound, anandamide. So by having CBG in your system, you actually results in this bliss molecule staying staying active for longer within the cells, which is very interesting. So you experience that natural high then for longer. So CBG is a very interesting compound within the cannabis plant, and it's definitely one that's going to be more prominent, I think, in time to come, just because of that unique ability there to reduce the activity of the enzyme that mops up that natural bliss molecule. But anyhow, says for someone gunning for a fast 5k or a marathon personal record, it doesn't really make sense to use beforehand. But for an ultra runner just trying to get through the grind of a double-digit training run, it might. And that's the one I like. All right, they talk about 5k, yeah. I say 10k. Cannabis for me definitely helps me get through it. I'm not trying to break records or anything. I just want to finish the thing, and if I can enjoy my run more, and if I can actually finish my run and achieve my goal, which is 10k, then I'm a happy boy. I'm not in it for fucking times. I do definitely like to get sprints in there and stuff like that. But again, look, we could talk about health and all of this stuff, and I think this is all very relevant as well, guys. You know, shout out to anybody out there taking on a New Year's resolution to be more healthy, New Year, New You, and all of this kind of stuff. This is kind of why I'm starting off with this, and we'll follow on with some more positive stuff there as well. As a public health researcher, Brian is most interested in how it could potentially impact those who struggle to exercise at all, either because they can't get motivated, it hurts, or they just don't like it. And that's it hurts. Like, if a person is in pain, like, of course they're not going to want to exercise, you know. But if you can reduce that pain somewhat, like as it does for many people, you know, shout out to Endo with Amy Brown. Cannabis for her was an amazing painkiller, and it allowed her much better quality of life, allowing her to get up and get about her daily business. And yeah, you know, for other people out there, it could do the same, including getting out for a bit of exercise. It says here then, is there a world where taking a low dose gummy before they go for a walk might help? Is there a world where taking a low dose gummy, it's too early to make broad recommendations, but it's worth exploring, she said. So there you go. I definitely see that one, and I think it is a world that's worth exploring. And a quick flashback there to, remember last week's news? I believe it was last week's, maybe the week previous, that there was a researcher here in Ireland, goes by the name of Mary Cannon. You might know her. She got awarded over 400, I think it was like over 400,000 euros, just shy of like €500,000 to go research into the negative effects of cannabis. Meanwhile, we're seeing research coming out of Colorado University that's showing like, actually, yeah, this could be very beneficial. We're kind of hearing about all the negative health consequences of cannabis use, but actually, if cannabis can motivate a person to get out there and be less sedentary in their lifestyle, man, that's going to be a massive reduction on the burden then of our health system in time to come. You know, if people have that opportunity, because if people are more proactive about their health, getting out there and looking after themselves, going for more walks, exercising a little bit more, then they are going to actually be a bit more healthier and then be less of a burden on our health system. So there you go, Colorado University, well done, fair play for carrying out this research. Ireland, come on, do better. Kick Mary Cannon to the side and get somebody like myself in there. Give me a grant and let me go up there and do some research. Or I'm sure I've got more than enough volunteers out there in the hot box right now, kind of saying, yeah, Martin, I'll come in and I'll be a guinea pig in your study where you can dose me up with all the cannabis you want, and I'll run in any treadmill you want. I'll even wear the seatbelt or the treadmill belt. But yeah, more than enough willing participants, that's for sure. But unfortunately, you know, just the academic scene here in Ireland is just not very receptive to any studies that wish to explore the positive aspects of the use of, say, substances like cannabis. So we go from there then, and I think this is a good segue straight into the next one then, because we go from that Colorado University study and we jump over to the UFC. So the the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC, have officially removed cannabis from the list of banned substances. And this is as of the 31st of December or the 1st of January, either or. But effectively, they've put in place kind of a new testing system. I think they're after leaving, is it WADA or something like that, whoever was doing their testing there all along. And they're now doing their own testing. And it's still going to be just as extensive, the testing. It's just that they've updated the list of banned substances. They've made certain changes as well in terms of accessibility for fighters to be able to update their locations and things like that. So they've made a number of changes, but the most important one for us here today is that they've officially removed cannabis from the list of banned substances. And it makes sense, you know, that previous study they're talking about how cannabis actually isn't a performance enhancer. Well, if it's not a performance enhancer, why is it banned from use in competition? Why are we interfering in people's private lives outside of their competitions? You know, there's been a number of, like as mentioned in the previous article, Shaq Harry Richardson, been not able to compete. Like, come on, stop. There's no need. Like, it's not giving them any real edge on the competition. And fair play to the UFC for actually going one step further now, because it's not the first move that they've actually made in regards to reducing, I suppose, the interference by the organisation into athletes' private lives. They actually increased, I think, in the past the amount of active THC that can be in the system of a fighter when tested, and effectively the fighter would have had to have been smoking like just before doing the testing going into the ring. And I think Nate Diaz actually did manage to do that one. I think he still managed to fail one of those tests. Like he was probably high getting into the ring. But like that's effectively what they done. They made the level really high, where like you would want to be just blazing up that morning before your fight, before being tested, in order to kind of fail the test at the level. Even on the run up the fights, then like the level was a really fucking high. Like they weren't even looking at it and stuff. So this is a very welcome move, that cannabis is completely removed from the banned substances list now of the UFC, meaning that it's just not even tested for now any longer. So it says here, in 2021, the UFC took steps to shield professional fighters from penalties related to THC positive test results. Now the organisation has gone one step further and officially removed cannabis from its revised list of prohibited substances. And for athletes, the historic update builds upon prior reforms within the organisation. And it says here, this is a central part of the UFC's expanded efforts to protect the health and safety of its athletes, and also to protect their rights to compete on a level playing field. UFC's goal for this policy is is to be the best anti-doping program in all professional sports, says a statement on the UFC's website. And it's important here to talk about in terms of protect fighters' health, because cannabis itself and the compounds within it have been shown to be neuroprotective. And that's very important if you're a person who's going to be getting punched and kicked and kneed and elbowed in the head where your brain is, if you're able to get more neuroprotective compounds, including those found within cannabis, into your body, then that's a plus for you and the organisation, because it extends your, what would you say, it would extend the fighter's career, and stave off, traumatic brain injuries, TBIs, which is a big problem there. And even in football, where most recent, was it like last year, I reported on the fact that the NFL have invested over $1 million into actually researching cannabis and its ability to reduce TBI in footballers. Because many footballers, they experience serious traumatic brain injuries, and the evidence of such is only seen after the fact when the person dies. I believe there was one famous footballer who killed himself, and he left a note saying, kind of, check my brain, there's something up with me, I didn't want to do this, but check my brain, and they kind of found that you got serious TBI going on. But yeah. So it goes on then here to say that while the UFC's prohibited substance list aligns with the framework established by the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, which has faced controversy for maintaining cannabis as a banned substance, the UFC is making adjustments in light of historical findings, specifically the removal of cannabis from the prohibited list. In a press release, Hunter Campbell, UFC Chief Business Officer, says the sport's goal is to be the best, most effective and most progressive anti-doping program in all professional sports. UFC is proud of the advancements we've made with our anti-doping program over the past 8 years, and will continue to maintain an independently administered drug testing program that ensures all UFC athletes are competing under fair and equal circumstances. With this new iteration of the program, UFC has once again raised the bar for health and safety in combat sports. And with that, man, fucking well done, guys. Well done. I definitely applaud that. Jeff Nizitsky, UFC Senior Vice President of Athlete Health and Performance, says that the program is the result of our continued efforts to protect the athletes who compete in the octagon. This new program is the result of years of input and trial and error taken by UFC, our athletes and third parties who have assisted UFC in operating this program. Nizitsky said, the anti-doping policy is a living and breathing document that will continue to evolve and adapt when a clear science supports changes that can further protect UFC athletes who compete in the UFC. And then it goes down there to talk about the revisions within the policy, and again there's a couple of different revisions that have been made, but again the most important one, I suppose, for us here is the comprehensive list of prohibited substances. The prohibited list will largely follow the guidelines of WADA, with some modifications based on historical findings. Notably, marijuana, cannabis has been removed from the prohibited list. The program will establish decision concentration limits to distinguish between intentional and unintentional substance use. So there you go, guys. Some more positive news coming our way via the US of A across the pond. Even though the UFC is over here in, they fight in Europe and stuff as well, I know that. But obviously the organisation's largely based in the US. So yeah, positive news. Thank goodness for that. Let's blaze one there for all of the UFC fighters out there. Little celebration for you guys. Read out a couple of comments then from the Hotbox, and we'll jump back then into the news. As we've got, I suppose, a bit mixed kind of positive news. The next one is a politician over there in the US of A setting the record straight. Correcting some misinformation. I wish they would take a look at some of the misinformation that's happening over here in Ireland at the moment and combat that also. But thankfully, at least they're doing it across there anyway, and we can kind of focus in on it. Yeah, that's right. I see TG there in the Hotbox saying that the NBA actually stopped it too. That's right. UFC, the NBA, I think the NFL and stuff like that, they're all making moves now to kind of remove cannabis there from the testing, because as the study said, guys, it's not a performance enhancer, as in it's not going to make you run faster, it's not going to make you kick harder, that's my experience. But what it does do, it makes you fucking enjoy it more. It makes you enjoy it more, and maybe that you could argue that that's a performance enhancer too, because if you're in a ring with a person who's not really be afraid to be across from you, and he's not going to kick very hard, but he's having fun in there, that's a dangerous guy. Kind of but it's a dangerous position to be in too, because you can have a bit too much fun and get knocked the fuck out. So yeah, performance enhancer it is not. Enjoyment enhancer it is. So let's blaze. Let's civil disobedience this one. Chucky Air Law, yes. Love seeing that name when it comes up. So some people wins in the MMA are taken away if they test THC. No more, thankfully. Yep, no happy days. That was Nick Nate or Nick Diaz. I'm constantly mixing those two boys up. But that was one of the Diaz brothers. He had his win taken away controversially because of what I said. Effectively, he got into the ring high and he won. He beat Jaman. But unfortunately, they made it a loss then afterwards. uh, it's a funny one, isn't it? Like, nice one. Nice one for all the comments coming in there on the Hotbox guys. Marge, how are you, Marge? Nice to see you out there. Um, and Temple Growers teasing us there now, guys. He's about to hit some papaya live rosin. Mm. Ah. Yeah, I would love to have a taste of that big nasty stuff that's out there. Apparently peaches, but papaya. Yeah, I like papaya too. Ah, yes. And shout out to Mr. Wes and Green Tea. They've done a beautiful job there recently on some GMO and chocolate tangy. And I believe you've managed to sample that chocolate tangy now. And the flavor is just like off the charts, really, isn't it? Like it's unlike anything I've tasted before. Anyway, that chocolate tangy, it's straight up like melted chocolate and oranges. Just ah, no cotton mouth after it. Just a watery mouth and a dose of the munchies. Yeah, Johnny Carley says Nate is a gas bollocks. I love their fights, man. They were just so entertaining. They just had so much fun in the ring. That's what I loved about watching them fight. They were very much like my style of fighting. There's a photo that I could probably find there now that was taken of me while I was sparring, and I was in a clinch with somebody, and I have a big smile on my face. And they made a meme of it and everything up on the Samsung page. It was fairly funny. But yeah, man, you're just kind of in your happy space. You're just enjoying it. You're in the zone. You know, it's not really. Yeah, it's not the fight that you kind of think it is. Like so enjoyable. But anyhow, that's why I love the Diaz. They really have fun in there. They know how to have fun in the ring. I wonder, is it anything to do with the cannabis use? You have to wonder, you know what I mean? You're looking at that study, makes it more enjoyable, pleasurable, motivated, and stuff like that. It kind of ticked boxes there for what the boys would be doing when they jump into the ring. You know, they're enjoying it, they're motivated. Go on to Diaz's. Yes, I know Bobby there is fairly happy as well to be seeing those plan pictures be popping up in the hot box earlier. Beautiful, beautiful job. Bobby saying here the guava and papayas kick ass in hash farms. Bobby, so you know, I'm just gonna have to take yours and TG's word for it because we don't get guava over here. We get Diwan or not. uh, for those unlucky, if you're lucky enough over here in Ireland, like you're lucky enough to know a grower or are a grower, and then you can kind of get access to some strains. But even then, like getting some good hash and good extracts, unfortunately, it's just few and far between here yet. I know there's two people in the hot box. Mr. Wes, I believe you've got a nice rosin press, and I do believe RDMS over there on the hot box as well. Has got access to a really nice freeze dryer as well, which he has offered the use of to members of the hot box. So, yeah, I think we should be seeing some improvement in the offering of flavors and in terms of our extracts over here very soon. Fingers crossed. Looking forward to getting up there and linking up with the guys again soon. Yeah, Bobby says, yeah, you guys are fucking weed growing gurus. Keep that shit up. Yes, there is some quality out there now. In fairness, I've been fortunate enough to taste some of those growers' goods there within the hot box, and Absolutely amazing. Like that kosher kush, I believe it was kosher kush. Yeah, I think it was kosher kush that I got there before as a gift. Oh, absolutely unbelievable. There was a double banana punch as well. Holy crap! I never like actually had a banana taste. A very very subtle, but it was there. It was there. You definitely could get it. Mal Shronic, what's happening? Says even American vaping Z7 and smoking some smile. Hey, yes. Hopefully that's a good vape that you got there, good quality vape. Be very careful out there, guys, if you're buying vapes on the black market because there is some bunk out there, absolute bunk out there. Again, lucky enough to be able to, I suppose, know one or two people who do make their own vape carts and are health conscious and make it for themselves. So I know that you're getting good quality then as well. But if you're buying off the black market, be very careful, guys. Test that shit. Test it for synthetics and then some. To be fair, like just yeah, it's very hard to source good quality. Get to know somebody across the pond. Get them to post it. Yeah. It's the only way you're gonna be sure. Like I just couldn't take somebody's word for it here. B Mooney, what's happening? Says happy Saturday all. Just groved up a couple of girls finally. Time for a smoke break. Yeah, that those bags looked absolutely packed. Beautiful work, B Mooney. Beautiful. Fair play, man. I love to see those updates of people's grows as they're progressing because you're kind of watching a plant just kind of really take shape and then you're kind of hearing about it after the harvest. And it's even better then when you get a taste, huh? Wink, wink, no judge. Yeah. Yes. So let's drive on, guys, because I'm really enjoying the comments coming in. Keep them coming, guys. I'll jump back to you again in a few minutes. But let's dive into one of these headlines that I have lined up for you. Is Colorado governor's office slams DeSantis's marijuana stance, pushing back against the claims that legalization led to bigger illicit markets. And this is something that we have to really like listen to here and pay attention to because it's something that is constantly being brought up here in Ireland against the legalization of cannabis. That the legalization of cannabis actually led to an increase in the black market in places where legalized it. No, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. If anything, really, like it's the persistence of a legacy market in an area where it legalized because of just the issues there with becoming legal, making that switch, transitioning. But the governor here makes, or the governor's office slamming back here, making very good rebuttal arguments against the position of DeSantis. And this guy, DeSantis, apparently he's a presidential candidate or nominee or something along those lines. I think this guy is going to be running in the next election, potentially over there in the US for president. I don't know, but that's pretty much what it says here in this article. But the article says if Florida Governor Ron DeSantis needs some advice, and he's a Republican, on how to promote economic and personal freedom, the state of Colorado is happy to explain the advantages of cannabis legalization. And that's coming from Governor Jared Polis, a Democrat, after the Republican presidential candidate doubled down on his opposition to cannabis reform. And it says here on Friday, DeSantis peddled a dubious claim that Colorado's illicit market is bigger today than it was before legalizing adult use of cannabis in 2012, justifying his own personal opposition to the reform. And again, these people are murder for doing this, like making these outlandish claims and not being able to back it up with any fucking solid evidence there. And then these claims get repeated over here then in Ireland by the likes of, somebody like Mary Cannon, Bobby Smith and all of these fucking clowns. But anyhow, in response, the spokesperson for the Colorado governor's office offered to correct the record for the 2024 GOP presidential hopeful in a statement to the Marijuana Moment. And that's where this article is actually coming from. And the journalist here, Kyle Yeager, so shout out to Kyle Yeager for covering this. The facts are that Colorado voters approved the legalization of cannabis, which is curbing the illicit market, getting dealers off the streets, reducing youth use, funding school construction, supporting jobs, and Colorado's economy. And that's coming from the governor's office. And it says that Colorado is happy to provide the Florida governor advice on how to increase the economic and personal freedoms like we have in this free state of Colorado. Fair play to you guys. In an interview on the radio station KCPS that aired on Friday, first noted by Florida Politics, DeSantis had challenged the idea that regulating cannabis sales puts illicit operators out of business, stating that it's an interesting concept that he says hasn't played out in Colorado despite evidence to the contrary. And kind of what they're pointing to here is the fact that, like, it hasn't eliminated the black market, but at no point did anybody say that, like, oh yeah, if you legalise cannabis, you'll eliminate the black market. No. You'll reduce it. You'll massively. What you'll eliminate is probably, say, the organised crime gangs if you do it in an effective way. But you're always going to have some bit of a black market because the government are going to probably overtax it, overregulate it. So then the likes of, say Mr. Wes out there, if he wanted to become a regulated grower, but the barriers are set too high, the licence fees are ridiculous, he might just start growing and just sharing it out and selling it kind of on the black market as such. But is that really such a bad thing, really? Like, the government are kind of fecking up. It's not an organised crime gang in that instance. This is a legacy grower then that we're referring to here in that regard, which is the majority of the black market that still continues in Colorado. I know there's still kind of organised crime gangs that do operate there, but they operate there to actually export it out of there. They're not actually selling that cannabis in Colorado. So effectively, yeah, Colorado has eliminated their trade from their state, but they're not their presence, unfortunately. It goes on here then with a quote from the governor, or the presidential hopeful, saying there have been states like Colorado who've done things like legalised cannabis, and the argument was, well, you want to have a black market, it will be above board taxed and all of that stuff. DeSantis said during the interview, yeah, Colorado has a bigger black market of cannabis since they've legalised it, which again is just not true. He says it's well understood that the enacting legalisation doesn't fully eliminate the illicit market, and states have had varying degrees of success to that end. But research indicates that Colorado has been among the most effective at transitioning people to the legal marketplace. One report from Leafly and Whitney Economics was published in 2022 found that nearly all 99% of recreational cannabis sales in Colorado now take place at licensed retailers. Now that's massive. 99% of recreational cannabis sales take place at regulated stores. Like, you go back to previous to regulation, 100% were going on the black market. Now you have 99% on the regulated market, 1% on the black market. That's massive. The City of Edinburgh also released a report in July indicating that its local regulatory framework has effectively reduced the size of the illicit market, with law enforcement processing a record low amount of illegal cannabis in 2022. These are just a couple of metrics of success that advocates and stakeholders have pointed to as they've promoted the state's industry, which launched its first ever legal marijuana sales 10 years ago this week. But in DeSantis, retailing the illicit market has actually expanded in Colorado's, which is one reason he remained opposed to the reform that voters in his own state may have the chance to decide on this November, depending on the outcomes of the state Supreme Court challenge from Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody. So despite voting for a handful of reform amendments while serving in Congress, DeSantis has done little to endear himself to the cannabis community since launching his presidential bid. He's maintained steadfast opposition to the policy change and said last summer that he would not move to federally decriminalise cannabis if elected. So, this guy, yeah. He also recently suggested that the increase in Florida's medical cannabis patient population is partly due to people using the program as a pretext for recreational use. Well, that's what will definitely happen in a state where you've not allowed your citizens the ability to actually go to a regulated recreational store. They are going to abuse a medical program because who wants to be criminalised? Like, that's pretty much why they're using the program for a pretext. It's not for a recreational pretext for recreational use. It's a pretext for not being criminalised. Big difference. Said Floridians, meanwhile, are ready for reform. Polling shows nearly 7 out of 10 registered Florida voters say they support marijuana legalisation initiative, with majorities of even Democrats, with majorities of every demographic surveyed in favour of the reform, according to the survey that was released in November. Like, you think these guys, like these politicians, would be up to speed on this stuff? Like, you know, they're so out of touch with the people they're supposed to represent when elected. They're so fucking far out of touch, and they're just trying to ram their shit down our throats. You know, this is like misinforming people. Like, come on, dude. If you're going to go on a radio station and speak about something and about the illicit market being bigger now than what it was back then, come on, do the research. Just show us the evidence. You don't. You're just making an outlandish claim. You're just pulling it out of your arse, like. That's effectively what these prohibitionists do all the fucking time. And no doubt there's going to be a prohibitionist here in Ireland going to respout some of this absolute drivel from this clown. So there you go. As I said, a bit of positive there, like the guys over in Colorado putting your man in his place, in fairness. As they mentioned, 99% of cannabis sales went through a legal, regulated recreational cannabis store in Colorado in 2022, according to a couple of surveys that were done there. That's massive, massive. Bobby says Florida wants to legalize meth. Those Florida man stories are going to get a hell of a lot better. But to be fair, like no drugs should be illegal as such. Like if you make a drug illegal, all you're going to do is just create a black market there for these substances, and you're going to just to encourage the growth of organised crime gangs who are going to continue to sell these things where there's a demand. If there's a demand, just allow for a regulated, safe, controlled supply of whatever substance it is that people fucking want. They're getting it anyhow. You know? It's ridiculous. Like cannabis at the moment, here in Ireland, it's been sold by the kids, but yet we keep on hearing from the politicians, from the policymakers, that they're concerned for the kids. The likes of Mary Cannon were so concerned for the kids, but come on, the cannabis is being sold by the kids currently. How can you support policies that do that? They were actually on the radio here all week, and it was really annoying me. And I was trying my hardest actually to get on, and I suppose this is something I could talk about. I might segue actually over to that there now. But yeah, I was trying really fucking hard to actually get on the local radio here this week, to kind of speak up for the drug using community out there, because effectively they were talking on the radio all this week about drug debt intimidation, and they just kept going on about drug debt intimidation, about the need for increased policing, more resources there for the police in order to tackle this and all this kind of nonsense. At no point at all did anybody kind of call out their policies for allowing for this kind of situation to grow to the problem that it is today, because it's effectively drug prohibition and drug prohibition alone that allows for drug debt intimidation to perpetuate itself in Irish society. If you take control of the drugs, if you allow for 99% of the sales to go through a regulated store, drug debt intimidation is not going to be a problem, because guess what, guys? How many off-licenses out there selling alcohol are out there enforcing debts? Any of you hear of a story of an off-license fucking owner showing up at somebody's door fucking asking his mam to remortgage the gaff because their son is an alcoholic? It doesn't happen. No publican is going to do it either, right? In fact, like a regulated supply of alcohol has allowed for, I suppose, better intervention there for people who develop problems. So again, if we really care for the vulnerable, regulate the fucking supply. And that's what I wanted to get on the radio and say. And it seems like I've become a bit of a fucking persona, what's the word, persona non grata? Yeah, basically, it seems like they don't want to have me on. They've very much ignored it. That was Red FM. They were always fucking very receptive to my messages and stuff, but it seems like maybe they didn't like me restreaming our conversations. I don't know. But they kind of refused to engage with me. But they had on your man fucking Thomas Gould. Thomas Gould there was on, just pop up his thing. He was on with Red FM, and basically he again didn't even call out the policymakers for they're blaming this, because they do have a role to play in this. If you keep drugs illegal, you're going to continue to allow for this drug debt intimidation to perpetuate itself within Irish society. Where is he? Boom, there we go. Yeah. Like, they love to get their face up there, Oh, we'll pop it off here. I might pop it up there. Boom, that's better. Like, Cork TD warns that people are taking their own lives due to drug debt intimidation. Like, and he got loads of time on the radio and everything throughout the week, but I never got an opportunity to actually kind of challenge him on his position on this, because basically the Sinn Féin party and Thomas Gould, they support drug prohibition. So if they are against drug debt intimidation, but they support prohibition, Sorry, guys, you are also supporting drug debt intimidation. Conversely, you can't support prohibition without supporting drug debt intimidation. You can't, because effectively it's the reason why it is there. And that's what I say down here underneath this. The Thomas School, Sinn Féin is pretty much part of the problem. His party supports drug prohibition policies that leave vulnerable people exposed to the dangerous thugs. Ending drug prohibition is the only real solution to drug debt intimidation. Hashtag repeal global drug prohibition. That was a hashtag I picked up from Dr. Carl Hart. But these guys will get on there, they'll come on, harder on drugs, more resources, blah, 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 blah. Fucking waste of time. A waste of time. You know, go down there to the beach with a bucket and you have a better chance of emptying the ocean, kid. Because unfortunately, no amount of resources that you can give the Gardaí is going to be able to prevent this sort of thing happening in society. Sorry, it just doesn't. Look at what goes on over in the likes of Mexico, man. You know, it's just not going to happen. The level of violence. You increase the resources of the guards, the organised crime gangs are just going to increase their resources. The only solution: regulate the supply, take away the control. Come on, it's a no-brainer at this stage. Like, seriously. But anyhow. But yeah, it seems like my voice is one that can't get on the airwaves, and do I want to dive into this? Yeah, I don't know that I want to give much air to this, but I there's been a podcast in Cork that I've been listening to myself, and I've been a supporter of since it launched. The Two Norries podcast was launched there by James and Timmy. And they've done a great job. They've over 3 years their worth of interviews done. Definitely, I recommend guys get over there, check it out. But I had my sister message me because she listens to them as well, and she was like, "Martin, you should really be on with the boys. You would be a great guest for them to talk about what you're doing and stuff like that, and about how like things in court affected your mental health, because they talk about mental health an awful lot in their podcast." And I said to my sister, I goes, "Oh yeah, no, I actually messaged James when they launched our podcast, because we actually launched our podcast at a very similar time. And I was listening to the radio one morning in June, I think it was, back in 2020. And I messaged him after hearing him on the radio, because I was like, fucking man, I loved your what you said there on the radio." He opened up about his past, about his history there, being a drug addict and kind of being on the streets, and all of the kind of stuff that went on there with that, and where he was today and what he was going to do with the podcast. And I loved it. And I messaged him and I was like, "Yeah, man, fucking loved it. I have my own podcast just starting off here as well in Cork. I was like, I'd love to have you on as a guest to talk about your past, about how like drug laws affected your life, and about how like we can better help drug users and what have you." Like, that's what I wanted to have a conversation about, I suppose. Anyhow, he was like, "Yeah, man, let's do it. We'll do it sometime," but never any follow up. And I never really wanted to follow up myself, because stigma in my own head, man. I felt that they started getting huge. The Two Norries, man, they blew up, absolutely blew up. I think he went on like that not Tommy Tiernan show. Who's the other? The Ryan Tuberty. Went on the Ryan Tuberty show and absolutely blew up. The guys exploded. So I always felt like they didn't want to have me on because I was too controversial. They were very much recovering drug addicts and stuff, whereas I'm kind of on the other side of it. I'm kind of continuing to use cannabis, but I'm a medical cannabis patient. I suffer with epilepsy. Suffer with my own mental health problems now, mainly because of fucking prohibition, probably. And I use cannabis for those as well. But I'm not one who promotes cannabis use, which is kind of, when I seen the announcement there that they were going to end their podcast, I had to ask the question. I reached out to James and I asked. I was like, "Look, man, fucking well done on everything you've done. I'll actually just pop up the message, will I?" Get her up here. Because it was just eating at me. It was always at the back of my mind, why didn't the guys ask to have me on? I loved their interviews. I thought I would have made a good guest on their podcast as well. But it was just eating at me. I had to ask. I said, this is the exact message as I read it here. This was a follow up, because like the last message was the 14th of July 2020. I said, "Glad to be listening to the radio this morning. I hadn't heard you start the podcast. I started one myself. I would love to have you in for a chat and help promote your show through mine. I'd only be happy to do the same. Also, fair play again, bud. Keep it up." And he says, thanks, Martin. We definitely do that. Never heard from the guys again. And then I used to comment on their posts as well. I used to never get replies on their posts as well, interestingly, which kind of always made me spidey senses tingle a little bit, my stoner senses. So I messaged there after seeing the announcement that their podcast was ending. They just put out their final podcast just yesterday, I think. So time flies. Still remember that morning, first hearing you talk about your podcast on the radio on Red FM. So I'm gutted and we never got to link up and have a chat in either of our podcasts. But I've been wanting to ask though, is there a reason why he never had me on for a chat about what I was doing regarding the protest with the cannabis and plants, and about how drug prohibition has fucked up my mental health far worse than cannabis ever could? I've always felt like he couldn't or didn't want to have me on because of my call to end drug prohibition. Anyhow, just wanted to ask that to try put my mind to rest and try to reduce the stigma self-stigma. I've been self-stigmatizing myself all the fucking time. In regards to like wanting to message the guys and saying, oh yeah, do you want to come on my podcast for an interview? I always just felt like they didn't want that. I said, well done again and best of luck with everything going forward. Response. Hi Martin, I think we were cautious about people perceiving us to promote a mind-altering substance. Given the fact that we are a recovery-based podcast, it was nothing against you personally or your cause. I believe you should have the freedom to choose. I would like to see legalization for cannabis, even though I don't use myself. I think people should be allowed to grow their own in their privacy of their own home. And James has actually expressed this openly on the Two Gnarlies podcast as well in the past. He's put it up in a couple of their stories as well. As I said, I followed him, interacted with him for a while. But unfortunately that just never interacted back, and it was very stigmatizing. So my response to that, yeah, I had a feeling it was about the perceptions, alright. That's why I didn't bother following back up then after that initial message back then in 2020. I was tempted alright when you had on the Rebecca from Inner Mastery, but I said I'd leave it off. And Rebecca from Inner Mastery is this retreat where you can do entheogenic substances. I believe Timmy himself benefited greatly from these substances. Some of them are actually banned in Ireland. DMT, dimethyltryptamine. They use things like Cambo. They use, I believe, mescaline and other hallucinogenic, psychotropic substances, but are very, very beneficial. And I have no issue at all, qualms with them. But it was very interesting, for him to say that they didn't want to be having anybody on that seem to be promoting mind-altering substances. But then at the other side of it, I was like, kind of, yeah, you actually did. You had Rebecca on for Inner Mastery. But look, I said thanks for answering anyway, but I appreciate it. I know your position wasn't anything personal, but that it still hurts me knowing you didn't want to speak with me or were cautious to do so. But feck it, no hard feelings anyway. It's not the worst thing I've had to deal with. And then I highlight the fact that I'm back in court on the 17th for the first day of the case against me for the plants I planted across the city in support of Vera Toomey and Alicia Maher. Vera Toomey, who unfortunately, whose daughter has since passed away, But I always thought the guy's podcast was a mental health podcast. I didn't know it was a recovery-based podcast. I know they were in recovery and stuff like that, but yeah, man, the stigma is real. It's huge. For years, since they launched our podcast, I did want to have the guys on because I love their story, man. It's a very powerful story. They were really down the bottom of the barrel. Listen to those first 2 episodes. James tells his story, Timmy tells his story, and fucking really eye-opening. But for them not to want to have me on, man, it fucking cuts deep, because it just makes me feel so low. You're not worthy. And it's not impersonal. I know it's not impersonal. And I'm not taking it personally, but as I said, it's not to say that it doesn't hurt. I'll still fucking smile, wave at the guys going down the road. I'll still come on here and say, guys, that they did a great podcast. But fuck, man, that hurts, man. It's just you won't speak to me because of my message? My mental health issues caused by drug prohibition, that doesn't matter. You're not willing to kind of help me highlight that and talk about that. And interview me on that. But yeah, look, fucking no hard feelings. But I couldn't help but not share that on here with yourselves because the stigma is real out there. It's a big uphill battle. But I still would recommend get over there and check out the guys' podcast. They have a good podcast, done some great interviews over the years. I know a couple of the guys personally that they've actually interviewed, kind of met them throughout the martial arts scene. But yeah, no, I'm not going to feel bad. I was hurt by it, initially, but I've always knew that was the reason, you know. But the stigma, I always just thought maybe I was wrong, and I was just over stigmatizing myself. But to have it confirmed then by him, it was just kind of like, yeah, that one cut all right. But yeah. Dave says, I heard that podcast and his struggle's very good. Martin, what you're doing is your own thing, man, and that's good. You are exactly where you need to be and you will get that following. Yeah, no, definitely. I suppose it would have been great to get on their podcast because they have an audience that I would love to have gotten exposed to, which is a very Irish-based audience. But yeah, I don't need it as such. But man, it's come on, like you know where I'm coming from in this. Like it does hurt the kind of hair. Like yeah, the guys didn't want to have a chat with you because of how they might be perceived. It's like it makes you feel dirty, icky. It's like, oh man, stigmatized, huh? But look, I'll say no more. That's that. That's aired. No grievances, nothing personal there in me sharing that either. I'm just sharing this with you guys because it's very relevant as a cannabis consumer, person calling for the end of our discrimination in society. This is kind of how we're treated, even by those, who have kind of come down that road as well in terms of like being past drug addicts, also kind of beaten with that stick of prohibition. Although they might have seen it as being more of a help, who knows? I don't know. Never got to interview him. Nice one, David, there as well for that comment, man. He's also saying here, personally, I think what you're doing is a brilliant job, Martin, and you're bringing to light the things other people can't say. You will get that audience. Try abroad online, bring it to them, and have a backing. Guys, don't get me wrong here. I am more than happy with the audience size that I have up there right now. All you guys in the hotbox that come back here on the regular basis, guys, because there's so many names here that I'm seeing time and time again on every time I go live. I don't need any more than that, guys. If there was just a 5 or 10 of you there, of those just reoccurring guys, that's my community, man. I'm happy if I come on here just to the 10, 20 of you that are out there. Makes my day. I don't need more than that, but it blows my mind when I come back and see, like, after 24 hours that the 420 News has gotten like over 300 views or something like that. I'm like, oh, geez, that's fucking amazing. Fair play. I'm happy. Any more than that, like, it's just a bonus, really. Like, but to be getting 300 people, that says a lot to me. But yeah. So the stigma's out there, guys. The stigma's real. Boom, 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 boom. So. Oh yeah, we popped this article up. Forgot to share the article with you. Boom. Two Norries hangs up their headphones as podcast end. The inspirational friends behind the Orpin Two Norries podcast have announced an end to their popular series. James and Timmy Long, both from the north side, Cork City, confirmed the news on social media today and said the podcast, which will be released tomorrow, will be their last. They began the series 3.5 years ago, talking about their own experiences with drug addiction, childhood trauma and homelessness, and later invited experts to join them in these discussions. The show helped destigmatise these social issues and help thousands of listeners. Unfortunately, the stigma remained for those of us out there kind of calling for the end of the prohibition that fucking stigmatised so many people out there experiencing drug addiction. How many people currently using cannabis would fit the bill for what they're calling what is it, cannabis use dependence, CUD, is it cannabis use dependency or something like that? All of us, pretty much. Anybody who's developed a tolerance to cannabis, you've got cannabis use dependence. It's like, oh man, stigma, man, like destigmatizing social issues. Yeah, only the ones that kind of are in line with their their position. They recorded almost 190 episodes over the year with discussions on crime, mental health, addiction, and a range of social and health issues. Unfortunately, I was excluded from those social and health issues. Not important enough. I'm out there, I'm icky. Perceptions Not good. They paid tribute to their guests, which included high-profile figures such as former Taoiseach Micheál Martin. And that's the thing, like, maybe if they had me on, they wouldn't have had Micheál Martin on. You see? Like, they couldn't do that. And I would have held them back because I'm Mickey. Justice Minister Helen McEntee, Defence Solicitor Frank Buttermore, Homeless Champion Father Peter McVerdy, and GAA legend Jim Barry Murphy. They also spoke to ordinary people with extraordinary stories of determination, courage and resilience. Just not this fellow who has courage to get out there and plant plants across the city for vulnerable people like Ava Barry, who unfortunately passed away since, and for Alicia Maher, who still is exiled from Ireland. But no, I'm icky. I would be seen to be promoting a mind-altering substance, and I shouldn't be platformed on their podcast, unfortunately. But look, I shouldn't be getting that sounded very negative of me. I shouldn't be bad. But anyway, they hosted their podcast before live audience in theatres around the country and were interviewed themselves on various national radio and TV shows. They were named the joint winners of Cork Person of the Month award in July 2022 for being a real force for change. Change. That's something I'm definitely a big proponent for, but that force for change, I was just too much of a force for change for that force of change. And the series, they won a Certificate of Merit award at the Justice Media Awards. Again, they couldn't have me on if they wanted something like that, because look at me, I'm Mickey. The same month, following a powerful interview with barrister Doreen O'Mahony on her experience of an abusive relationship and coercive control. Remember, guys, that over a couple of thousand calls on domestic abuse went unanswered at the same time while guards were out there ripping the pants off of a young fella for a fucking nudge. Powerful interview. Mr. Leonard and Mr. Long said all their guest stories added a magic to their podcasts. It's with mixed emotions that we welcome you to our final episode that will be released this Saturday, they said. From the first chat to now, our final podcast has been an incredible journey, and it wouldn't have been the same without your support. In this farewell, we're diving into our favourite moments, our reasons for finishing up, sharing behind-the-scenes stories and reflecting on our journey. Thank you for sharing your incredible journeys with us. To our listeners, your support has been our driving force, and we can't thank you enough for joining us on this part of our journey. And guys, I was always a long-time listener and supporter of yours, but you might have noticed that my interaction with you definitely kind of dwindled there when I was seeing you respond to other people, but never to me. I always knew, but I always just thought that maybe the voice in my head was just that stigma that was there from society, telling me you're not good enough. And I didn't think it was true, but unfortunately, you confirmed that it was true. I wasn't good enough. Well, it's goodbye for now. They say the memories we've created will stay with us, and unfortunately, the memories you created for me will obviously stay with me too. The RT1 reporter Brian O'Connell was among those to pay tribute to the pair, saying, you've changed many lives, lads, and broken down a lot of stigma and stereotyping in the process, but unfortunately, you left one massive fucking stigma unresolved, and that's a stigma caused by drug prohibition. You never really wanted to delve into that subject with me because it's an icky one. You largely remain like stigmatic towards people like me, unfortunately, while trying to break down stigma. You fucking kept it propped up for me. It's funny, like, isn't it? Yeah, but there you go, guys. Well done anyway to the Tunaris. Fair play, guys. 3 years of incredible work. I really enjoyed listening to the podcast. Definitely a few times kind of listening and saying like, jeez, have me on, lads, have me on. I'd fucking love to contribute, because what this person is saying here, I could really add to this more. I could really add to that more, in terms of people who've suffered with drug addictions and stuff like that. They were talking about their experiences with cops and in prison and stuff, and it's like I could really add to the quality of these conversations here if they were just to have me on, but I'm icky. But yeah, enough said in that anyway. Enough said. Oh. What are you all saying out there in the hot box, guys? Bullabus says Martin, says Benny Biotech. Nice one, Benny. Appreciate that. Thanks very much. John Phineas says they're only big in Cork, you're nationwide. Bye. Pip Jam says it's not bad idea, mate. Chilbert says our other houseplant may be less attraction. Miles Tronic, you're a good soul, man. Nice one, Miles Chronic. David says, for example, people like Big Nasty, people who are established, get their advice, get their backing, and then it's backed by the medical side. And I'm happy, you're happy. That's your community, like you said. Exactly, David, man. I don't wish for anything more. I'm happy with what I've got for now. Anything else that comes in the future is just a bonus. Martin is a true legend, says Chilbert. John Finnegan says, I am a tinny Irish person here that never listened to them. Mr. West, and honestly, John, if you're ever bored in an evening, the interviews are actually very good. I'm not dissing them at all. I'm just sharing my own experience of stigmatization. Because they're big proponents for breaking down the stigma, and I do believe that. But unfortunately, I just don't know, or they're aware about how stigmatic they were being by willingly excluding me, despite the fact that there was an open invitation there with them since 2020. Mr. Wells says, CUD, cannabis use disorder, doesn't consider benefits of consuming cannabis. It's nonsense. Exactly, 100%, it is complete drivel dreamed up by addiction experts, Steve Jones says, Martin's international. Yes, we are. 420 News is international news from around the world. Yes. And we are. Like, we've had people from Iceland on here. We've had Australia. Hell, we've even had people over in Thailand hop on and have watched the 420 News. What do you know says, you're not icky. You just reveal their own hypocrisy to themselves, and they don't like what they're seeing in the mirror afterwards. Yeah, no, I definitely don't think I'm icky at all. But you definitely do have that feeling there in the back of your mind, the stigma. I know myself, like, that sometimes I really have to overcome it and tell myself, Martin, stop listening to that voice at the back of your head that tells you that you're not good enough for this because you're a cannabis consumer, that people are just going to dismiss you because of this. It's not true. It's not. That's a stigma that's been pushed on us by society. And I myself, guys, I'm on here, I'm fucking, doing my thing, and people would think that I mightn't battle with this, but I really do battle with the stigma myself, and the kind of the voice that says, you're not worthy. But despite it, I do get back on here. I do these live shows, and I don't know how I manage to do it. Sometimes I'd be sitting down here before going live, and I'm like, right, Martin, you're going to fuck this up, like. And I do, and I make mistakes, but nonetheless, guys, you keep coming back, so I mustn't be doing all that bad. Love you guys. Teresa says, you're right. If they had you on, then they would never have Mr. Martin on. Hi all. Yeah, you see, that's it, So in that sense, yeah, breaking down the stigma, but while remaining stigmatic. Yeah, keep those comments coming in anyway, guys. We have a couple of more news headlines there to dive into for you. As boom, while we go from Colorado, where they've legalized cannabis, and you just had the governor there from Colorado kind of talking about the economic benefits there, the societal benefits there for the citizens. We come back then to what's reality for us here in Ireland. Where across the island of Ireland over the last 72 hours, last couple of days, there's been over €1 million worth of cannabis after being seized up and down the island. We'll start here with this first headline that's coming from the Irish Examiner, where a woman in her 30s was arrested following the seizure of over $500,000 worth of drugs. It says a woman was arrested after Gardaí seized cannabis in County Kildare. 25 kilos of cannabis, to be precise, was seized during an operation on January 4th. The search of a house in the Clane area was carried out as part of the Operation Tara, and investigations into the sale and supply of illicit drugs in North Kildare. The seized drugs have an estimated street value of €500,000, and the drugs will be sent to the Forensic Science Ireland for further analysis. And a woman aged in her late 30s was arrested at the scene, and she is currently being detained at Garda Station in Kildare region. It's like pissing against the wind. That's what they're doing here. And Operation Tara. You know what's going on here? Basically, it's an accumulation of numbers. That's what Operation Tara is. It might as well be called Operation Numeracy, or a fucking Operation Graphs and Pie Charts. Because at the end of this, that's what they're going to accumulate, really, is graphs and pie charts to show, look, oh yeah, we were so successful. We caught this many people. We took this much drugs off the street, and aren't we great? But meanwhile, there was a radio announcement there by the guards only like 2 days ago here in Cork, because they made an announcement because of ongoing efforts by volunteer services for searching for missing people. And there was a bit of criticism of the guards, because the guards kind of have to assign manpower to different places. And basically what the guards said is that they can't look for a missing person indefinitely. But meanwhile, on the other hand, they can look for cannabis indefinitely. They can look for all of these other drugs indefinitely. But do you know, if you're Johnny or Mary or fucking Susan goes missing, no, sorry, we can't look for them indefinitely. We can assign a couple of guards there for a couple of hours, but unfortunately you're going to be relying on volunteer services out there, like the Cork City Missing Person Search and Rescue crew, who I actually made a donation to, we made a donation to. The cannabis community made an over 600 euro donation to, after a protest we held in the Cork City, like the Fitzgerald's Park Green area down there, just off of the Mardyke Walk. We had a protest down there back in, was it 2020, 2021? I can't remember the year that we held that particular protest, where we raised 600 euro and we donated it to the CMS RAR, Cork Missing Person Search and Rescue and Recovery Unit, whatever they're called anyway, sorry, butchering their name. But the work that they do is absolutely incredible and invaluable. And I know one of the volunteers with the team, an old neighbour of mine, and a fucking gent, and a cannabis consumer too. I'm not going to expose him and say anything, but the guy loves his hash, and I'm actually going to have to pay him a visit, because it's been on my list of things to do for a while now. But I love to call over, just have an old talk with him and just kind of catch up, because he's an old neighbour. I always share the old memories of him passing in a dog to me on my birthday, and then fucking his own dog biting the head off of that dog and killing it, and me finding it, and traumatic shit, like, but funny memories, because it was many years then later until I got a dog again. But yeah, you know, tremendous work that they do. But meanwhile, sorry, off on a bit of a tangent there, people like himself going out there volunteering, looking for searching missing people, and meanwhile the guards, they kind of have to stand down their units, but meanwhile they never have to stand down in their units searching for cannabis. It's insane that goes on. But anyhow, we drive on, because it doesn't end there. The seizures continue. It says an estimated 611,000 worth of cannabis has been seized at 3 locations across Ireland. So these are 3 different seizures then that were made. 2 of the seizures are made with the assistance of the drug detector dog Enzo and Harley. Shout out to Dogs Against Drug Prohibition. Revenue said, as a result of risk profiling, its officers examined parcels at a premises in Dublin on Thursday, and they found 14.2 kilos of herbal cannabis with an estimated value of almost 285,000 euro in parcels which had originated from Thailand, guys. So there you go. It's not often you actually hear of parcels coming in from Thailand with cannabis, but it's no surprise now that cannabis is legal there that you are going to start to see seizures like this coming from places like Thailand, which, as I said, until now I haven't ever reported on a case of a seizure of cannabis coming in from Thailand. But again, this highlights how prohibition here in Ireland actually perpetuates a black market then in Thailand, where you could potentially have maybe members of the Kinahan cartel going over there now, using their lax laws around cannabis, growing it and importing it back into Ireland, you know. And this is how we're having a negative effect here with our prohibition in a country over there in Thailand. That's how nasty prohibition is. It fucking has no borders. If you've drug prohibition in your country, you're going to cause a problem in another country that has more relaxed laws, because your criminals might be attracted to there to grow the drug there where it's now legal and export it back to your country with its prohibition exploding the price there, like really increasing it far beyond what it's worth in a legal environment. And then it goes on to say, based on risk profiling with the assistance of Enzo, they seized 11.8 kilos of herbal cannabis with an estimated street value of 236,000. In a separate operation carried out this week by revenue officers, seized 4.5 kilos of herbal cannabis at Shannon Airport, originating from the USA, destined for Clare, Limerick and Cork addresses. So a number of parcels there seized. So unfortunately, guys, your Cali packs, they're coming in from Shannon, are coming in from the US of A via Shannon. They've been seized if you were in Clare, Limerick or Cork and expecting. Sorry. The seizures are made as a result of risk profiling with the assistance of Harley, and drugs have an estimated street value of 90,000 euro. Revenue said the seizures are a part of its ongoing operations targeting importation of illegal drugs. What a waste of time and money, guys. You know what I mean? We could just end drug prohibition once and for all. And these kind of things that can be just the general, just the import of just illegal goods on tax goods. You know, they can just look and see if has that duty been paid in that cannabis that's coming in from America. It hasn't. No. Send a request there for the duty out to the person. They need to pay more tax and that, because that's the only issue then that in future. I know we can't import alcohol and stuff like that, so maybe then that's an issue there. I don't know, but it shouldn't be illegal anyway. End of story. Where do we go from there? Yes, we have another article coming in here out of Ireland. Dave says, I wonder what they do with all that confiscated cannabis, laugh out loud. They burn it. They destroy it. That's what they do. They destroy it. They put it into an incinerator. It's so fucking stupid, man. Like, you think about it, like the amount of energy that was put into growing all of that cannabis. Like, if they guarantee that it wasn't sun-grown cannabis, it was going to be grown under artificial lights indoors, so there's electricity consumed. Like, we're burning up planetary resources in order to grow these cannabis plants. And then these guys on the other side are just destroying it because of their ignorance and their stupid prohibitionary policies. Sorry, no, just flicking through some of the comments coming in there via the hot box. What's happening, Green Tea? David says, Martin, you're doing a decent job. Don't ever doubt yourself. For every video you put up and go live, you're bringing the stigmatization to light and keeping her lit and keep fighting for the good fight. Nice one, Dave, man. Teresa says, had half a brownie last night about 11:30, only had half because was told they were fire. Feck, I'm still high, haven't had a smoke yet. Speaking of, not had a smoke yet. It's been a while since we engaged in a little bit of civil disobedience on our shit. We're an hour and a half in. There we go. Where does the time go? Like, you know, cannabis definitely not performance enhancing, but it definitely it certainly adds to the enjoyment of broadcasting on here, guys. I think we have to get some more nugs grinded up. Oh yes, thank God we have a little bit here in a jar nearby. I do believe this is orange sherbet. The very last of the orange sherbet. Keep those comments coming in there anyway in the hot box, guys. I'll read through one or two more there as we grind up some stuff. David says, Teresa says, serious fucking thing, lads. Trav couldn't talk when I was leaving the house today. That's Teresa's oldest son. What was Trav actually? 21 or something like that. But yeah. They burned it, David. John, did you ever get your parcel? Says Teresa, and she says she did. I did. Beautiful. Thank you. Poor Trav. Some in regards there to Trav anyway, Teresa. Tell him I was asking for him. Lucky him. It's been a while now since like when I think about it, actually the only time I've ever really got myself into an absolute obliterated state was on edibles, and it was that time with my buddy Andy, and we went to yoga, and holy moly, like, did we get absolutely annihilated. I think I had like, I don't know, did I have like 7 or 8 of my cookies? I think he had like 4 or 5. They were just so tasty, but oh my God, they were dosed, and I just completely underestimated them. But talking about like Trav not being able to talk, we went to a yoga class. Andy went, within 5 minutes, Andy actually just got given an eye pillow and was allowed to go to sleep for the whole class. I then, on the other hand, was allowed staying downward facing dog for some reason, while everybody else was doing all of the other positions like warrior and all of this kind of stuff, and I was just stuck in downward facing dog, thinking everyone was laughing at me. I could hear people laughing and all, but there was nobody laughing. Ah, yes. Great fun though. It was a mighty experience. The next closest was probably inside in an isolation chamber. I think I talked about this on her recently, and kind of got an incredibly heightened state of awareness and felt very panicked as a result. But yeah, good fun. Um, nothing about nothing poor about him. Shit. Nice one, at least it landed. Constant Gardner says, "What up, Martin and the hot boxers? Any thoughts on HHC pens? I picked one up today. I actually was given one there about a week or so ago by the buddy down below in Dungarvan, and I haven't really fired her up yet actually to try it out. But once I do try it out, I'll certainly share my thoughts on you of what I found with it. But I suppose the only thoughts I have really on HHC at the moment is the fact that like the stuff wouldn't really exist if it wasn't for cannabis prohibition. Like, agree, disagree? Like, come on, how many people would really be looking for HHC pens if you were able to get a THC pen? You just wouldn't, like, really. Like, unless it was cheaper or something. Maybe then, like, if you're on a budget or something. But, like, to be fair, like, you're going to be looking for those THC pens. You're looking for that full spectrum stuff. You don't want none of this kind of semi-synthetic converted from CBD to make HHC. You don't want that. You're only wanting that because it's legal. Yeah. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think of it anyway, Constant Gardner. I know people have found them to be pleasant, enjoyable, a nice kind of high off of them, and tasty. The one I got, I think I had like a 5% terp mix or something like that, 95% HHC. Travis Alpern, I know he just heard his name on the TV. You travel on, John. And I think actually that you've brought that up there is good, nice one, because it brings us into our next one, our next story, and it's this arrival of synthetic drugs causing mental health concerns, says the HSE. Come on, what rock are these guys living under? Like, their arrival. These things have been here going. They have had Novel Psychoactive Act. When did that come in? 2016 or something, was it? The Novel Psychoactive Substances Act? Or it was even earlier, wasn't that 2012 actually? I think they brought that Novel Psychoactive Substances Act in. So like the arrival of synthetic drugs. They've been here for a long time. It's just you can't play catch up. Drug prohibition, it's a failed experiment. You're not going to be able to keep up with the ingenuity of these organised crime gangs out there, of these people who know how to manipulate a chemical compound in order to alter it, where it retains some of its psychoactivity, or all, or increases, but is nothing like actual the substance which it's supposed to mimic, and I'm thinking here specifically of things like spice. Like I tried that King Triple B stuff, and they had like fucking one of those spice compounds on it, like Enfabopinca or whatever they want to call them, some sort of letters there before the name, and man, I had to rush to the bathroom. I thought I was going to throw up after a hit of this stuff from a pipe, or was it a joint I made? And I took one hit of the stuff. It gave me that womp, 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 womp in my head, and I was just like, it made me feel violently ill, and it wasn't for me at all. And it was only because of the fact I could legally get it. At the time I tried that, actually, the sprayed cannabis was going around. Sprayed cannabis. So because I couldn't get quality cannabis on the black market, I tried to go for the head shop stuff, because that was around for a while, but I was able to get quality cannabis for a while. As soon as the sprayed stuff started coming around, then I entertained the head shop stuff. So like, arrival of synthetic drugs, guys, come on, you're so far behind, like, to be fair. Like, the only thing causing a concern for mental health is the prohibition of drugs. The prohibition of drugs has given rise to these synthetic drugs. It's given rise to the drug debt intimidation that we talked about there a little bit earlier in the show. It's given rise to so much problems, including mental health concerns. This is an article by Eleanor Burnhill there over on RTE. And it says the HSE has said presentations at mental health services have increased year on year with the arrival of synthetic cannabis on the Irish market, causing particular concern. Like, come on, synthetic cannabis has been on the Irish market since 2012, as I said, or earlier. Like, when was the head shop fucking era? Anybody out there enlighten me? I know it was definitely prior to 2010 we had head shops selling these psychoactive substances and stuff. Definitely prior to 2010. I'm wanting the correction. But, like, come on, if you were really concerned, we're 2023 now. You had Luke McFlanagan's bill since then. You could have done something then with Luke McFlanagan's bill, and that would have sorted out the issue around synthetic cannabis. But no, you didn't. And here you are now to be concerned, apparently. It said here that it's partly due to the increased use of cocaine, but also due to the potency of other substances available, including synthetic cannabinoids, which have now been found for sale in jelly form and as vapes. And don't forget brownies; they're doing very well in brownie form too. But that's a semi-synthetic cannabinoid then in regards to HHC. So here it talks about, and from my last year, a number of young people were hospitalised after they vaped a substance that later turned out to be the still legally substance hexahydrocannabinol, HHC, which again, it's a semi-synthetic cannabinoid in that it's found naturally in cannabis, but in such minute quantities that it's incredibly hard to even detect analytically. But you can convert CBD, which is available now for pennies, using chemicals, so chemical alteration of CBD, and you can end up with HHC at the end of the process. That's how they're making HHC. Semi-synthetic then as regards to the nature of it, derived from natural CBD, but synthetically created then, semi-synthetically created by chemically altering CBD. Gardaí began an investigation into what it called a medical incident after the teenagers aged between 14 and 15 became unwell, and the substance can come either as vape or be infused into jelly sweets. And guys, these jelly sweets are not being sold in any of the shops around the place. These jelly sweets are being sold on the black market as cannabis edibles, and they're being sold to young, naive young people, vulnerable young people, because they don't know any better. They think, oh yeah, I'm getting a fucking peach rings here, look, 400 milligrams, 8 individual pieces with 50 milligrams per piece. But meanwhile, you actually open it up and all it's got in there is HHC, and it's probably got an ungodly amount in each one of them too. And, you know, people eat them and end up in hospital. There was a number of hospitalisations across Ireland as a result of these substances. And when the Forensic Science Ireland guys actually released a report there last year, they found that over half of the cannabis edibles that they tested positive for synthetic